Okay guys, I've got an interesting one for you today. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to go to Reddit's PPC subreddit r/PPC, and what I want to do is just basically answer some questions, because a lot of the time the questions I see on our PPC don't really get answered that well, and I know a lot of you guys watching my videos go to Reddit to ask questions as well. So I'm just going to answer them for you, and I think by doing that you're going to learn a little bit about PPC and the best approach to a lot of these problems that people have on Reddit. This is literally just today. I'm not doing any cuts or anything like that. We're just going to answer some questions off the top of my head based on the knowledge I have about Google. We will skip the boring ones about attribution, for example. This one, let's just have a look what else there is. Competitor clicks. So one of our local businesses is experiencing a lot of competition clicks and wasting our budgets. We got to know this because an ex-employee of ours joined them, and he told us that every day they do it. Well, we can confirm this is because most of our search terms include our business name. We get calls, they laugh, they put their mic on mute. Our website is based on WordPress. So basically this is a classic click fraud. Now, I've talked about click fraud on the channel before, and there are two types of click fraud. One is from bots and automation. The other one is this one, which is where competitors go ahead and click on ads. And quite often, here's the problem I often see. Sometimes it is way more of a problem that the business thinks it is than it actually is. Sometimes it's such a minor problem, and I'll tell you why. Because the majority of the time, competitors are too focused on running their own business to have people sitting there clicking their competitors' ads all the time. Now, here's the thing. There are some very rare instances and very rare occasions where sometimes people are indeed clicking on competitors' ads consistently. And in fact, and I've seen this before with a client I've had previously based in Dubai, and he has an insane amount of click fraud going through his campaign. I don't know why that market he was in particular within Dubai had this issue, but it was clearly an issue. And in fact, a lot of the business owners in his industry attack each other online. They're very combative, and it's very strange, to be honest, but it's very rare that this happens. 9 times out of 10, from a click fraud point of view, it doesn't really happen as often as you think it does. And when it does happen, it's very rare or very unlikely that the competitor will invest in something like a VPN to continuously change their location in order to affect, or change their IP address in order to affect the campaign so that they can always see ads all the time. So typically, the first thing I'd always say is potentially the first thing to try is to use click fraud protection software as an option, which can help hopefully eliminate a lot of these fraudulent clicks. But the other thing as well is basically you can use your own website data interactions and create lists of people who are poor interactors. Now, a lot of click fraud software does this for you anyway, based on low engagement sessions. You can actually exclude those from future clicks as well in the long term. Now, of course, these softwares have their own limitations based on Google's IP exclusion list limitations. So ultimately, there's no way to kind of completely eliminate it if somebody wanted to use a VPN, change their location, change their IP address, and just click ads all day long. Google claims it has safeguards in place. We know they don't work that well. In all honesty, there's not a huge amount you can do. Even if you block your website and exclude your website from certain IP addresses, Google doesn't care, because once you've clicked the advert, even if the website doesn't load for that user, it's still a click. You're still going to pay for that traffic. So it's a tough problem. I'd say start with click fraud software, start with building lists of low interactors and excluding them over time, and then eventually you should hopefully reduce the problem down. But ultimately, if you're in an industry where the budgets are very low, this can be quite a tough situation to be in. But if it's a very small proportion of your budget and you're still getting leads and sales from Google Ads, focus on your business, focus on your internal growth, focus on how you can get more sales from the traffic you're generating from Google, and it will become such a minute problem for your business. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. Local service ads, we'll skip that one. Here we go. Here's a good one. No conversions on search campaign after 40 days. So he says, I got hired by an SMMA to run a search campaign in order to get more clients for them. Our target market are medium to large enterprise business owners and decision makers, starting budget of 2K. We count a lead form submission as a conversion. I initially went with max clicks. Good starting point. I think with a new account with no conversion data, max clicks is a perfectly legit strategy to start with to gather data effectively for a lower cost. If you go straight in with max conversions with no conversion data, you find your CPCs are quite high, and while you're optimizing your traffic quality, you want to keep costs low, because of course you don't necessarily know the quality of traffic you're going to get while you're adding those negatives. So I think that's a good approach. He goes on to say, did a lot of sorting of negatives in the first 30 days, as I mentioned. That's good strategy, and I wasn't expecting a huge inflow of leads initially. Then after the 30-day mark, I got a little worried because at least I should have get 1 or 2 leads in this time frame. I switched to max conversions, but after that impressions and clicks dropped to 0, then switched back to max clicks and started an experiment campaign with max conversions bidding against it. So he's gone down the route of, okay, max clicks hasn't delivered any conversions, therefore I'm going to switch to maximize conversions, and then he switched back to splitting it with an experiment to have half of his traffic going to maximize clicks, half of it going to maximize conversions, and he's still struggling for results. So the first thing I always ask in situations like this is, how long did you leave it? It's not a lot of time. So first 30 days, he's looked at his negatives, adding negative keywords to the campaign. That's a good time frame, I think, to do some initial research on the quality of traffic. That first 30 days of a new campaign, you are going to see a fluctuation in traffic quality until you get it under control with negatives. So far, I'm completely with this guy. The next step he did, which is to change to maximize conversions, no, not yet. And the reason for that is because he clearly wasn't getting any conversions from maximize clicks. And because of that, it's not really going to work as a bidding strategy because Google won't know how to get conversions with that strategy. He should have stayed on maximize clicks. But the next step he completely missed from this, and it's a step a lot of people miss, is that maybe it's not Google Ads, maybe it's not the campaign, maybe it's the business. You might laugh, but actually it's true. A lot of the time, businesses I work with and I've spoken to over time, they can send the best traffic ever to their website, but it will never work. Now, when I say this, what I mean is not necessarily just about the website being poor converting, not looking good, not having conversion optimization. These things obviously are good things that would drive forward conversions on a site. What I actually mean is product and positioning and pricing. What are you doing? Who is it for? And how much does it cost? If you're trying to sell a B2B service, which this is, and you're doing a subscription for $200 a month for an email service, for example, and the market like MailChimp and other providers start their pricing at maybe $29 a month, you're not going to work. It doesn't matter how much good traffic you get. What you're looking for basically are ignorant suckers, people who don't know the market, haven't done their research, and are willing to pay top dollar for a product that can be bought for 20% of the price. That is a product problem, not a problem with Google Ads. I think it's back to the drawing board for this one. Understand the positioning, understanding the market, making sure the traffic they're actually trying to get is right for this business. Whenever you run a campaign and you're not getting any conversions from 30 days worth of ad spend, you've got 0 conversions, something is mismatched. If your traffic quality is refined because of your negative keywords, there's a mismatch between what you think is the right traffic and the service you provide, or the service you provide is broken. It doesn't work. The offering you're putting out there is not appealing to the market. And before you spend a single penny more on advertising, you have to address that. Oh, this one's interesting. Enhanced conversions. So, enhanced conversions compulsory ? So, client had a call from a Google rep and says, yes, we all know they're full of BS. Of course they are. He's right. Something interesting came up. The rep said the account doesn't have enhanced conversions set up. And he stated that this is connected to the consent mode changes and is compulsory. So I'm going to stop right there. First of all, enhanced conversions and consent mode are not the same thing. And one is going to be compulsory, the other one is not going to be compulsory. So enhanced conversions is basically, for those who don't know, it is a system where you can basically import your first-party data from your form submissions automatically into Google Ads. Google looks at that data, well, not the actual data, because of privacy, the data is hashed, so therefore Google can't actually read the record, but algorithmically they can understand what that person's email address and phone number is and their name is. They match those records with existing Google accounts, and if there's a match between the existing database of all Google accounts Google has and the customer who submitted the form, Google can count that conversion in your campaign based on your first-party data without having to use the conversion tag, because of course people opt out of conversions all the time. Therefore it's a safeguard to basically get more conversions into your account to make sure that you're tracking as much as you can to feed the algorithm to get better bidding and more conversions overall. So now we've covered that. That's enhanced conversions. It's something you probably should be doing on your campaigns. It is. It gives you more data and there's nothing wrong. There's no reason why you shouldn't be doing that. You want to maximize your data. The other side of the coin is basically consent mode. Consent mode is essentially a way for Google to get some data whenever a user opts out of cookies and tracking. Now, you need a consent management platform in the EU, the UK, many states in America. It's coming in India, it's coming in Brazil, and it's going to be global. It's going to be the global standard eventually, so you might as well get on board with it. A consent management platform is when you go to a website, you see the pop-up that says, do you want to accept cookies and tracking on site? People say yes or no, depending on their preferences. And if they say no, then you don't get your Google Ads tag firing because, of course, they've opted out of tracking. They can also opt out of GA4 seeing anything as well because it's an analytics tag. If they opt out of those tags, they're not going to see anything. So consent mode means Google can basically aggregate the data of people who have opted out to find patterns and algorithmically send conversions to Google Ads based on consistencies in those patterns. So they can basically estimate conversions. Now, this is already the case on Facebook ads. If you're running Facebook, you would have seen this already. Conversions are basically estimated based on algorithms. So Google are taking the same approach where they can't track people, they aggregate data and then send that data based on predictability of conversions based on existing data. They're two separate things altogether. So consent mode will become mandatory, and I've got emails from clients saying that consent mode is mandatory, so you guys I'm sure will get them as well. You need a consent management platform, and it just so happens I've done an entire tutorial on consent management and what it is, how it works, how to set up full consent management on your website end to end using Cookiebot. And the tutorial is on my channel. Check it out. It's an hour long, but basically if you go through that, you will have the entire process covered. There you go. Okay, so this one's interesting. Which bidding type for software as a service? So, hi all, I run a startup called Modi.io. I've got $600 credit for $600 spend on Google Ads and willing to give it a try. I'm based in Australia. Which bidding strategy do you recommend? Max clicks with a CPC limit, max conversions, manual CPC. What annoys me about these is that every single person wants more conversions at less cost with the most value, with the most traffic. I'm actually unsure why these even exist. In any case, what do you think is the ideal configuration? Well, quite frankly, there isn't an ideal configuration. Your budget is tiny. So the first thing you want to say is, yes, you want to give Google Ads a try with your $600 credits plus $600 spend for a software as a service business. If you prorata that budget down to a daily budget, you're talking tiny amounts, like really small amounts of money. So is that even enough money to confidently run a Google Ads campaign in a fair test that's going to give you a breakdown as to whether or not it's going to work for your business? In my mind, probably not for the software as a service industry. And the reason I say that is because it's not a needs-based industry. If you're looking for a car repair, you're looking for someone to fix your car right now, you're in market for it, and your barrier to entry and your commitment level is pretty low because you just want your car fixed. And if somebody's got the appointment space and they look okay, you'll probably book it in because you need your car repaired to get around. With the software as a service, you're making a considered purchase. People tie into software as a service packages for a long term. Your entire business process could potentially be affected by the software that you choose. It takes much more convincing than it would for a service that is a needs-based service. A small budget like this in software as a service is too small, in my opinion, to run a consistent campaign, to build up that trust, to get the traffic you need in order to get that commitment to start a trial or take a small subscription out, whatever it might be, to get people on board with the software to get going. I think it's too small a budget in 2024 to do that. If he upped his budget, say for argument's sake he did, then I would say, like always, if you're starting a new campaign with no conversion data, maximize clicks is not a bad place to start. And even with me, who's not the biggest fan of manual CPC is also acceptable because what you're doing at the start of a campaign is you're just gauging the traffic quality, and that's fine. You can use those two bidding strategies as a starting point, see what conversion data you get, and then from there you can move over to maximize conversions, and then from there you can set a target CPA. That's kind of the roadmap I would look at for something like this. Now, with something like this as well, because software as a service is usually something quite novel, quite often what you're promoting is a different way of doing something that exists already. So maybe it's something like a new idea or a new initiative, so it takes even more convincing. So sometimes you might not get the conversion data that you should in order to move through that roadmap, as I mentioned, towards a target CPA strategy. In that case, you need to start tracking activities and actions before the conversion point. Maybe button clicks on free trial, maybe people going to the pricing page, something like that, something very much removed from the main conversion point of subscribing to the software if you're not getting the data, because you might have to start small, understand what interactions are driving positive actions on site, and then from there you can start tracking more appealing conversions, especially when your budget is this low. Let's have a look at some other ones as well. So someone's asking for a landing page check. Do we click the landing page? I'm always a bit funny with these. Let's click it. Let's risk it. If it's a dodgy link, I'll just end this stream. Okay, let's see. Okay. So here it's an e-commerce website. It's got a big image on the left-hand side. It's got images going through scrolling. That's not too bad. That's pretty good. It's got a white background image here. Pricing is there. Okay, right. I think it's okay. I think maybe the text is a little bit small, makes it a little bit harder to read. I think the image choice is good to have the white image first for e-commerce, of course, so people can see the product. There's one thing missing from here, though, and that is a picture. They've got a lifestyle picture of it, but a white background picture of the entire piece. That's what I call a decision-making shot. You can have the close-ups, you can have the lifestyle shots, but I think having a shot that is basically showing the entire product with a white background, clear as day, that's the decision-making shot. Here is what the article is. So that's good. Big clear call to action for the button, which is all good. Pricing, this is very small text, very hard to read. At a glance, understanding this is trying to say that it's cheaper, but this illustration, I'm not so sure about it. I think is a bit of a distraction. You want the details higher up than that, because this is what the person wants to know. The quality of the gold, what am I getting here? I think when it comes to jewelry, especially one that costs a few $100s, you want to decide as well what kind of market you're in. Are you in a premium market selling jewelry at a discounted price, or are you cheap and cheerful? And I think this red pricing here with the strike through takes away from the monotone premium feel of the website. I think that kind of cheapens it a bit. What people want to know is, I'm getting something premium at a discount as opposed to this kind of bargain basement look. I don't think that looks right. So yeah, move the details further up. Materials, this is the part people actually care about. So the gold finish, 14 karat gold, and it tells you about what the finish is. And the diamonds as well. This is more important than this diagram here. This doesn't really help. I think people already know the price is going to be okay because they're in market for a gold chain. If they see a gold chain for $300 versus one for $1,000 in more premium shops, they'll know it's going to be cheaper. So it's got good lifestyle shots. It's got good information down here as well. So this part's good. It's got reviews down here. I'm always a bit funny about website reviews that don't have a third-party link back to them. So Trustpilot or reviews.io or some kind, or Google reviews even. All of these systems can be gamed. I understand it, but I think it just adds a bit more credence to this. So this person's written a 5-star review and they've put it okay. That's awful to have at the top of the page. I don't think this reviews list is realistic a lot of the time. It doesn't look good. I think a lot of these might be potentially fake reviews, just people saying awesome. Yeah, there's a reviews app in Shopify, and this is a Shopify website, I believe, looking at the URL structure. And I can't remember what it's called for the life of me, but it's very easy to game the system and put fake reviews on it, and it makes it look legit, and I think they might be using this. So a few things to be aware of. Make sure you know your market positioning, put the information that people need to know at the top of the page, get a shot of the entire piece on a white background as well. Get rid of this, make the text a bit bigger, much more easier to read. There's a few things they could do there, but that's a quick, very, very quick landing page review. I've not gone into much detail, and we haven't even got, things like heat mapping installed or anything like that. I've not even looked at the way they've written the text and the actual readability of it and what they're actually saying and how they're saying it, all of those kind of signals as well. But that's kind of it in a nutshell. Let's go back to Reddit. Let's do a couple more. So we'll leave the payment stuff. That's fine. Okay. So hey guys, I'm running a campaign for a web design agency in Dubai that provides services such as web design, store design, and it's my first time in this field. Well, hard time. That's a hard client to start with, web design. Is it better to make each service in an ad group or to split them into 2 campaigns? What plan should I follow? How to track conversions with the client using the WhatsApp number? That is interesting. Dubai is always WhatsApp. I don't know if you guys know the Emirates very well or if you've gone to Dubai before. I've had clients in Dubai before. They all use WhatsApp as their main thing. They don't use booking forms. They don't phone people. They WhatsApp people. So for this campaign, the conversion point is unfortunately going to have to be a WhatsApp button click, because that's where the majority of leads are going to come from. The other part is the structure of the campaign and the difficulty of this industry in general. Just a bit of background on the web design industry on Google Ads. Small businesses have a lot of options now. They have so many options. They can go down the route of self-build using something like Squarespace or Wix, which is very easy to use. You can knock up a decent looking website very quickly with their tutorials. Then you have freelancer marketplaces like Fiverr who can build websites on these platforms to make them look pretty good actually. And then on top of that, you've also got things like WordPress, where people on Fiverr can build websites on WordPress. All these different types of options small businesses have, and web design on Google Ads is very, very difficult unless you essentially niche down. You niche down to a very specific niche and focus on a niche of web design that you're doing, so you can really show the value-added services you're providing. So for example, if you build websites for electricians, for example, you'll have a background in understanding what the main selling points are for an electrician. You can make sure that your web design agency follows the path of making those things that people care about for electricians front and center of any design you do. You can speak the customer's language. All these things about niching down really make a big difference. However, I think the structure overall of the campaign would depend on the types of websites. He's mentioned things like stores, like e-commerce, and things like that for product selling. Then they're service-based. So there are ways of structuring it, but I wouldn't necessarily structure it by the type of website. I would look at the search first of all. You want to do keyword research. Once you've done your keyword research, you'll understand how people are searching. Then you structure your campaign based on those searches people are making. The worrying part of this for me, and I'm of course I'm no stranger to Reddit PPC, and I'm sure you guys aren't either, but this guy clearly is new in the game. He's got a client on his lap looking to start a campaign, and to be quite frank with you, he doesn't really have an idea what he's doing. I'm going to be honest, this is a bit worrying. So whenever you're an agency owner, and I speak to lots of agency owners and things like that, and even business owners, whenever you find somebody who is telling you, I've had so many problems with my Google Ads agency, they did this, this, and this, you go in, you audit the account, and you see an absolute horror show, it's because of stuff like this. And no hate on the guy, you know, you have to start somewhere, and if you're new in the game, you've maybe just done a course, and you want to start doing campaigns, yeah, it's a tough gig to try and get in there, but I think always the best way, ideally you want to start your career in digital marketing, is to get a job first. Get a job first, learn off people in the game currently doing the job, and then you can basically have guardrails from being able to absolutely decimate someone's business. Because this guy, when you get, if this guy was given $5,000 a month as budget, I can't imagine the guy getting a return on investment. I'm going to be honest, but that's a story for another day. Let's keep going. We'll skip past the meta ones. That'll be another one for another day. So here you go. What software do you use for keyword research for PPC? He's between SEMrush PPC tool and Google PPC tool. For me, I always go to Google. SEMrush is third party, Google is first party. They're going to have more accurate data on search volumes and the way people are searching. There is a couple of exceptions though. I also use a tool called Answer the Public as well, because you might find some long tail questions and proposition questions and ideas of how people search outside of pure keyword commercial searches that could be quite useful for niche industries, especially in the B2B sector. So that's something else I'd consider as well. But you can't really go wrong with the Google Keyword Planner. It's just a good tool. It does what it needs to do. It's very easy to use, and I don't think many other tools add much value to the Google Planner beyond what Google's data has. And not all of these tools half the time anyway use Google's data regardless, so you might as well stick with it. Let's do one more. Let's pick a good one. This is the last one we're going to do. Let's pick a good one. Okay, this one's interesting. Impressions lost to rank. I have a campaign that is on max conversions, no bid limit, and no target CPA. I believe this is the most aggressive bid strategy, but I'm losing 88% of impressions now due to ad rank. How can I have Google be more aggressive with the smart bidding if I'm already keeping the constraints open? Well, it's quite simple. You can constrain your CPA. in terms of having a target CPA, or you can open it up and have no bid limit, and you can maximize conversions. Correct. Those two things are true. So he's got no target CPA, therefore Google's going to get as many conversions as it can. But for what? And that for what is as many conversions as it can for the budget. What is his budget? I bet his budget doesn't cover it. And that's simply what it comes down to. If you basically had an unrestrained campaign with no budget, with no budget cap, where you put the budget at, like, I don't know, 500 grand a day or something stupid, and you put yourself on maximized conversions with no target CPA, you will not lose 88% of impressions to rank. The reason you're losing 88% of impressions to rank is because Google cannot bid to the level it needs to get those impression shares percentages up, because it hasn't got the budget to do so. It's always going to be a question of budget. Nobody has open budgets on Google Ads. Nobody should have open budgets on Google Ads if you have no CPA limit in place, or some kind of limiter in place, whether that's a cap on your CPCs, meaning Google wouldn't even be able to spend all of your budget anyway, because the CPC cap means your impression share will be capped, or because of your target CPA, that will cap your impression share as well if it's capped in line with your business goals. Then that's fine. If you have unlimited budget with those guardrails in place, that is fine. But if you have an unlimited budget, you have to have a guardrail in place. Otherwise, things could get very ugly. And I'd imagine for this guy, if he was to essentially run without a CPA target on maximize conversions, but also set a very high budget, I think he would have a tap on his shoulder from his boss, or maybe his business co-founder, or whatever it might be, saying, what the hell happened to our budget? We spent 500 grand and got like 20 clicks, or whatever it might be. Google will just take that money and go to the bank. So I would say he has a guardrail in place, which is budget, but he just hasn't mentioned it. And there we have it. That will do for today. Let me know how you think this video format is going. I think this is interesting for people learning about PPC, to see the questions that people commonly ask on Reddit, get them answered by me, and then hopefully that will help you guys learn how I think about PPC campaigns, so you can implement some of what I'm saying in your campaigns as well. Like this video if you like it. Don't forget to subscribe. Check out the other content on my channel, and I'll see you guys on my next video.